What's in a name? Apparently, like any other word, it depends on the influence that the word has. Words only have power over those who recognize the word. What would trigger you may not trigger someone else. For instance, if you called a person from another country a nigger, and that person does not know what that word means, then they will look at you perplexed, and they will also possibly laugh at you because you're speaking gibberish. But what if the person is from another country where the word nigger is not part of the language? However, they do know of the word. In that case, it would be up to that person to identify with that word. And if they don't identify with that word, then yet again, that word does not hold any power, meaning that it does not trigger any emotion. This is a picture of a color called the blackest black. As a painter myself, I can appreciate how absolutely fantastic this color is. Black is the darkest color, the result of the absence or the complete absorption of visible light. That is the singular reason why this paint can make something look like it has a hole in it. It is absorbing every visible spectrum. It is the blackest black ever created. Here's a question. Have any of you guys ever seen a human being that is actually the color black? The darkest human beings that I've seen still reflect light off of their skins, which would be impossible if their color were actually black. The darkest human beings do not look like shadows walking on the street. So I would take a scientific guess and say that if a person were actually the color black, then they would absorb all of the visible light in the area of his or her existence, including the ultraviolet light of the sun, and at some point die of some sort of incurable skin cancer. The end. So to summarize, there is no such thing as an actual black human being. There's no such thing as a person that is the color of actual black. Something can resemble the color black, thus giving the illusion of such, but illusions aren't real, correct? But if it makes you feel any better, we are all black people in total darkness. Keep in mind that most colors, if not all colors, are part of a spectrum or wavelength of light. White objects are white because they reflect all visible wavelengths of light. To put it another way, white looks like it does because it simply won't allow any other color. Human beings perceive only the reflected colors. Thus, red is not in an apple. The surface of the apple is reflecting the wavelengths we see as red and absorbing all the rest. I want to emphasize the word we, because an apple looks very different to a bird or even a bee. An object appears white when it reflects all wavelengths of color, while an object appears black when it absorbs all of the wavelengths. So if human beings were actually the color white, then factually, they would never tan, because their white skin would not allow us to see any darkness upon it. Remember, white does not allow any other color, ever. So there are no actual white people. And albino? Well, it turns out that most albino people are actually of African descent. They have the features of Africans, but since they lack melanin, it takes the pigmentation out of their skin, giving them the appearance of Caucasian people with African features. Now, as pale as Caucasians can actually be, no Caucasian on the planet is as white as the color white. So scientifically, albinos are not the actual quote-unquote white people. So again, there are no actual white people. Color is all about the visible portion of what we call the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible portion. The eyes perceive the reflection of this visible portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. Again, the eyes perceive the reflection. So the eyes are only interpreting the transmission of electromagnetic energy as best they can. This is why you see the picture of how the eyes actually work. If we were insects, we would actually see the world differently. What we call black and white would look very different and not be black or white at all. Perception, what our eyes receive, what our eyes are given. You know, there are so many things that the human body is given on a daily basis. So many things that are absorbed into our being that have a huge influence on who we become. For instance, we absorb the energy of the sun, the radiation. We convert that to vitamin D. Sound, but really the vibratory frequencies that our eardrums absorb, that allow us to hear, that allow us to listen. Food that is ingested into our bodies affect our well-being and our mood, and how we react to the trials of life itself. Again, the body absorbs so much. It's incredible when you think about it. And some of the same things that we absorb can also be used against us. Food, what we hear, and the light that our eyes absorbed, what we quote unquote see. Society says perception is everything, how something looks. But we also know that how things look can be an illusion. We also know that because there are such things as illusions, that we can be fooled. We can be led astray by what we see and thus believe. This is fact. This is science. This is time-tested empirical evidence, and this is a human experience. And the next series of videos that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about color, the color of man, and the illusion of it, and how it has led so many people astray to this day.